Hello everyone. Here I have two of the probably rarest calculators and most desirable. The one on the right is the Remington 1259S and the one on the left is the Casio FX-1. Probably some of you know that both of them are actually made by Casio back in 1972. So Casio made their original first scientific calculator, the FX-1, and they did make rebadge them under so many other brands. The US one was the Remington. There is another German one, I don't know the name, but they made them under different brands as well. These calculators, they were produced for a short while, 1 year I believe, and Casio FX-2 came out, which is identical to this one. It just does not have the Nixie tubes, which actually I think is sort of a neat thing. So it adds charm and loveliness to these calculators. You can see how the digits are actually nice and bright, and they show some of them brighter than the others because they are ahead of the others. So the 0 is way in the back. That's why it's a little bit dimmer than the 8 or the 7s. Those are the digits that are actually in the front of the Nixie tube. Those two calculators, as I mentioned, made both by Casio, so in theory they both are identical, but in reality those are not, because the one on the left, the Casio, was made for the European market, and it uses a voltage line of 220 volts or 220 to 240 volts, 50 hertz, while the Remington was made for the US market with 117 volts, 60 hertz. The basic functions, both calculators are actually functioning and working fine, and as we see, they do have most of the basic scientific calculations, so they can do roots, square, cube roots, they can do some geometric calculations and logarithms, etc. In addition to that, they do have some basic memory, one memory. One of the issues that I have with these calculators, actually the Remington, it's functioning just as good as it gets. The Casio, it has a very weird and unusual problem. As you can see, the Remington is showing, I'm actually displaying the digits 1 to 0 and then back 1, 2. The Casio, instead of showing the 0 over here, we can see it's showing actually 1, but it's a fade 1, it's not really 1. The Casio, for some weird reason, although the power supply is fully functional, and actually I swapped the power supplies between the two and it still does the same thing, so the problem is not in the power supply, the Casio is incapable of displaying the 0. So if we clear the register, it just shows a blank, similar to what we see in the newer calculators. But actually these calculators in the past, when you clear the display, it should show zeros, not blank. So instead of showing 0, whenever we have a number that actually have zeros in it, it will show blanks, and even if that 0 is on the right, so you can see if we're just pressing zeros, it just shifts everything sideways instead of actually displaying 0 as it should, as we see over here. Having said so, overall I'm very happy with these calculators. Actually they do, they're quite neat. They're not as accurate as newer calculators, and we can see actually how slow they can be by calculating some complicated functions, like the cube root of the highest number these calculators are capable of calculating, which is 999,999. And we can see that actually not only they take significantly long time to calculate that, but we can see the calculator in function as this calculator, to save money, it uses the display register as one of the registers used in the calculations. So here they go, both of them, and you can see actually even the results are not as accurate as the newer calculators capable of. We can see that actually the Remington is always lit, while the Casio, whenever there are zeros, it just goes blank. Having said so, I think they both are wonderful calculators. Here is the result. So the cube root of almost a million is 99.9996666, and then it shows 5, where it should actually, newer calculators would round it up to 7, because that should be a 6. If you have any idea what this could be, why this calculator is actually incapable of showing the zeros, please leave that in the comments. Or if you have a service manual for these calculators, actually that's another problem. I looked for a long time for service manual for these calculators. I could not find any. I do have the operating manual. Actually, I do have the original operating manual that came with the Casio one, but not the service manual. I could not find any circuit diagrams or schematics to figure out, which might actually help me to figure out why it's not showing the zeros. Again, if you're curious about these calculators, I'd like to see more about Nixie tubes, please let me know, and I'll try to make more videos regarding these calculators.